Dad was Dad and Mum had lived out in Seafield. He was looking for a new way of earning money and decided that the shop at the lighthouse would be the answer. I think it comes from that his family used to be coastal traders in Youghal since about 2 or 3 generations. It didn't seem to be a sailor, but he did love Youghal and he did love being by the sea. But he saw a challenge here, it seems. One, that the council wouldn't let him build it. And 2, there was a girder which seemed to have been found at Seafield Fabrics, left over from the building. And he seemed to have come up with the idea of putting the girder across and putting a floor down and then putting a wall around it.
Can I ask you, it seemed to be like an odd place to build a shop, but why there? Was it a dream of his to build it there at the 49
I think
steps?
it was because it was odd.
Yeah, well
He liked being different.
Yeah, I have a suggestion now to make. That one thing that might have put it in his mind about putting the shop there was, we did see an old photo.
Yeah.
Do you have that photo still, I wonder?
Yes, I've seen it.
And there actually was a shop at the top of the diving rocks at one time. Now, in the photo that Eilish had, you can only see it as a building, and we were quite curious as to what it was. But one day we were up around the Collegiate Church, in at the back, and Mikey Rhodes, the Lord of Mercy on him, was on his way home, up from the town, going home up. And I said to Eilish, here's the very man now that might tell us what that building is there at the top of... so we showed it to him, and he said, oh, that was a shop.
There was a shop in the old days as well.
At the top of the diving rocks.
And maybe your dad
and that might have given him the idea for
But it might also have been that Rohan's was there, and the next shop was kind of Barrett's or something out the front. Or was it Hearst's out the front strand?
Probably that one on the way up to the Golf Links Road.
Was that
the woman that had the shop there on the road up to the Golf Links Road?
Longs, is it?
No, at the other
Quirks.
And
I don't know.
Maureen Welsh.
Yeah, but that was new. That was after this shop was built. Yes, it was.
And what year was it when he decided to build it?
1949.
1949.
Yes,
right.
I remember it well because it was
You were only 7.
Yes, it was the day of the communion, and I think the house in Seafield Road was sold that day, and we sort of moved here.
And did he build it purposely for, like, as a commercial premises, a shop, or for family homes as well?
Oh, I think it was a shop, because it wasn't a lot of ground first. There was only a small. The first section came in, and it was definitely as a shop. We still had some property out of the. I think we had a. I'm not sure where we were living at that time.
And what background had your dad in building?
Well, he was a civil engineer, and he did himself and what was his name? I forget what. But he had somebody at Maloney. Mr. Maloney, who helped him to build it, and the 2 of them built it as far as I can remember.
So it was a unique shop in a unique place.
Yes, exact. Yes, sorry.
And totally against the wishes of the Urban District Council. You have to put that in.
Yes, and
because
I think
that set up the trend for the future, that he would always be in contention with them about everything.
That's true.
Because they didn't want him to put up the shop there.
Well, what kind of character was your dad?
Very interesting. He loved to fight. He loved a challenge of being able to do something new. He had some really good ideas, but it was usually my mother who had to carry them out. Like he thought of the idea of souvenirs, which was very, very popular. People loved having souvenirs, those little things which were made in Japan. No, Japan,
Taiwan.
I think. Yeah, well, I think it was Japan at that time. Then, but we used to put on a present from Youghal, but he recognised that. Eileen Hamilton would be able to tell you about that one as well, because we were dab hands at that. And he knew that he kind of came up with the idea of the ice cream and the terrazza floor.
He had the Club Orange.
That's right.
He had the orange. It was a kind of a see-through, kind of a glass thing, and the orange was the diluted orange, and it was bubbling up inside there, and there was this little ball in the middle of it. And often now when you'd speak to people, and I'd say maybe Kay Donnelly is home, you remember they used to have the shop, and they'd say, oh gosh, I can remember I was being parched with the thirst passing that place, and I'd see this orange, and God, you wouldn't even have a penny to get a glass of it,
Everyone has a great nostalgia.
Unique,
of the
unique
shop growing
memories.
But I just want to go back a bit. What was it like growing up as a child or teenager in the shop and the 49 steps.
That was wonderful to have the 49 steps, but to be to be a teenager or a youngster living with the shop, we had to sell the papers out of the church, which was terribly embarrassing. You know, we used to put the Sunday papers out, and for us kids it was very embarrassing because I think the church didn't like it either. You know, I'm not sure.
Do you
it was
remember
authority
that?
Again.
When they used to sell the Sunday papers outside the church?
And the English and the Irish papers?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
And what was the embarrassment?
Well, because we were teenagers, I think, and you just kind of felt, exposed. I mean, nobody else was doing it. None of your contemporaries were doing it, and also delivering papers. We had to do.
Go around the house and
Yes, and that was okay. I used to come home from school at lunchtime and have to deliver a paper out to Troy's or something at lunchtime. And this is one of my ambitions, is to try and get a bike and cycle up this hill and see if I can do it again. It's
without the paper.
Without the paper, but to see if I can kind of, because it was those sort of things. We had to keep into the shop a lot, it seemed, but we were also, our family was neither Strand nor town. So we just
See
felt
that? They were the in-betweeners.
we were, and we felt it. But we did have our own community. Yeah.
But you had your friends
Yeah.
in school.
But Kay, you were a friend. So, but not just yourself, but anyone from town going out to the beach,
Yes,
or to
exactly.
Perks or whatever would call it a shop.
I mean, this is the thing. It was the only place, like, if you came down the back street, say, if you came down the other way, there'd be Lumberts and Rohan's. But you weren't going to buy an ice cream or even lemonade or anything there, to bring with you, because nothing would be frozen to be melted or ate anyway by the time you get out there. So if you did have sixpence to spend or whatever, you're going to hold on to it till you get out here. Get something then to take down to the beach with you to enjoy, and like the great thing was, it was one of those real old-fashioned shops that had everything.
Everything, and it got smaller and smaller because we had more and more
Because
things.
you had the buckets and shovels hanging out around it,
And
you had,
sombreros.
and you had the shrimp nets, and you had anything that you'd want on the
togs
beach,
and
togs,
everything like that.
and then as well as that, you see, you had the groceries.
Oh yes.
You had butter and you had milk
And biscuits and sweets
and
all
sweets
those
and everything.
old-fashioned sweets. They.
Start naming the sweets.
Bullseyes.
I could do this. I could do the other.
Well,
ones
what
a
about
bit-
those
okay.
licorice? Remember those licorice ones?
Name somebody else yourself. Like you sold the sweet after and cigarettes and
Calypso
stuff.
bars.
You sold cigarettes as well as
We
sweets?
sold players as Peter Stuyvesant. You could get one woodbine. There used to be a packet of 5.
You could buy one at one each.
We used to try smoking them too. And Afton.
Sweet Afton.
Sweet Afton, but now what else was there? Oh,
Players.
Cravenay. I loved Cravenay.
Did you smoke when you were...
no, I was only on to woodbines at that time. But Cravenay was sort of chic.
This is the way you find out things about your friends.
Yes,
like,
and we used to have sweets and things like that. Oh, it was...
What's the name of those? Aniseed balls. I used to love those. You get about 20 of them for a penny. And
used to.
slab toffee.
But yeah, I think
That
that
stuff that you'd break up and you could be sucking it for the whole afternoon inside of the pictures.
What about was there the stick or the rock?
Oh,
Was-
the
was-
rock! Oh,
was there
the
thank
old
you
rock.
for mentioning that. There was the Moby Dick stick, a rock, of course.
Moby Dick?
Did you not know that?
No.
Oh my God! And there was of course, the normal
Youghal
one
rock.
was the Youghal rock, which
What
was
was that,
very.
red and
And you
white?
could have this.
Red and white?
Yes, that's right. But it was the 6p, a shilling, and I think 2 and 6. I'm not sure.
So small, medium and large.
But then you had the Moby Dick rock. I mean, that was really good. The idea they moved with the times.
Where would they come from, Eilish? Would you make them or would you order them
no,
in?
Cork.
There was a
It's-
guy in Cork. He was on the television there one time. I think they're still actually making those
Is it
handmade,
Lenahans or something?
making
or
those
whatever?
handmade sweets in Cork,
Right.
and he was showing how they make
Right.
those rocks with the names.
And because of the razzmatazz with the Moby Dick and all the
yes,
film
it was
crew,
great.
that was it was
that was
amazing to
great.
have the Moby Dick rock.
Great,
Yes.
You don't have any yet, do you?
No. I mean,
1954, that'd be a good thing to have now, wouldn't it? One of those Moby Dick rocks.
well, I suppose you could make one.
And
You could
pretend.
get one made,
You
yes.
could make one, get one made, and we could pretend it was there since
We could do
1954.
it as a souvenir, kind of a souvenir of an anniversary.
Start up
An
a new
anniversary
business.
rock.
Speaking of the 50s, what kind of music were you listening to then? And I mean, there was no television or stuff like that.
I think Perks was terribly important to us, really, and the dance bands and things. That was,
You
the
could
local
sit up
ones.
on the wall. You could sit up on the wall below by the Strand Palace and
Yes.
listen to Mick Delahunty in the showboat.
That's right.
I know who used to play in the Strand Palace.
I'm not sure, but
Might
that
have
was,
been Podgy.
I don't know. I'm not sure. Remember
Yeah,
that.
some of the local
but I do
bands would
remember
be in
that
the Strand Palace.
we used to go kind of be terribly busy and not finish until about say midnight, popping down to Perks. It was fantastic.
But of course the trains were coming then.
Yeah, the trains were coming. They were
Yeah.
gorgeous.
And the last train would
The
be 10
talent was
o'clock.
wonderful.
And that was great. Like,
but
watch
they-
all the people running for the last train and the
Oh,
men
I-
with their pints and they're trying to finish it on the
I
way
just
down.
remember this. The kind of
And did you ever hear the story about the fellow was drinking the pint inside at Clancy's and the wife was below getting on the train and she was sending the children up, go up and tell your father the last train is leaving, come hurry up. And after the children being sent up 2 or 3 times anyway, the last time the Charlie came up, he said, go down and tell your mother the train won't be leaving till the man drinking a pint here with me is finished because he's the driver.
I like that one. That's good.
Eilish, you said there was talent coming down there. Was there boys playing soccer?
Yeah, I mean,
Can you tell us
it-
about that?
Soccer.
Well, it was. I mean, these were the boys from Cork, and they were a little bit more sophisticated.
And you
in
see,
trade.
you must remember now that Leisha and Eileen Hamilton lived during the summertime in a tent on that grassy place. You know, that's still there.
You can. It's
I'm
it's
actually
on a
surprised
postcard.
somebody isn't after building something there now. They used to live in a tent there. So they had continuous kind of
Pardon?
hangers on.
To make a good camping spot, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, it did
Ah.
actually.
It would make a good camping spot, all right.
Yeah.
You're
There is a
way,
photo.
you're
There
way
is-
ahead of your time, though.
There is actually a photo,
There is
a postcard.
That's
Is there
right.
something of the little tent? And the two of them in it.
Speaking of postcards, was there a mention of postcards
That's
that were...
that is the one I love. I mean, the idea that the Youghal youth got their sex education from these Blackpool postcards. It's just so beautiful. I love it. That we contributed. My family contributed to the health
the
of the
education
Youghal.
of-
Yes, the health of
The
the
sex
sex health of
education of
Youghal.
the teenagers
I love
in
it.
1954.
Can you explain it to me? What do you mean?
Well, it seems to be. Because we saw them every day, we never thought about it.
Can I just backtrack?
Yeah.
You were selling postcards of Youghal and Ireland to
Yes.
John Hind, the famous John Hind, in
That's right.
postcards. You were selling them yourself.
That was the views.
Right.
Yes.
Yes, of panoramic views. But you were selling saucy postcards.
I
naughty
think they
postcards?
were called
Saucies
saucy.
are
I
the
think they were
words,
called
yeah, that's
saucy
the right
postcards.
word.
But it was large ladies with sitting up in bed with a little husband and bikinis and I really little quite naughty things it seems. But I
And very
didn't-
little clothes on.
Yes, but it seems to be that the
And-
youth thought this was something.
You could have one with a couple of ladies facing out to the sea, and all you could see was their bums, and what have we written on it? I'm sending you a view from Youghal.
You really paid attention.
Was there much consternation among certain quarters about that?
Well, for
Only
me,
the nuns.
Well, for me, I was so surprised that in the front of everybody in class, this nun was a very sensible,
Don't name
usual.
her.
She was a very sensible teacher usually, but she suggested that I would bring in these naughty postcards and give them to her, as if I had sort of, it just seems amazing.
Yeah, so she could have a good look at them before
Yeah.
she'd burn them.
Innocent times.
Innocent times. It was fantastic in one way. Mm.
Can you remember you mentioned other shops that were nearby, or people living nearby? Can you mention them to me, please?
Well, we were well guarded here because we had a guard Windle, Fortrel, Rouen.
They all seem to live in the same row houses
Yes,
there.
and so we were all right that way. And then there was the Dr. Murphy up there, and Jean Doyle and her family. Of course, we had public transport.
Jean and Veronica.
And Veronica, yeah. And there was Miss.
And then Eileen Hamilton lived in...
That's right, number 2 Gibraltar
Gibraltar
Terrace.
Terrace.
And then there was the person who did the hair.
Yeah, the Miss
Byrne.
Burdens. The
They
two
had
Miss Burns had a
yeah.
hairdressing.
Oh, of course, there was Miss Savage with the whole fantastic Harbour View Hotel, which was gorgeous, and they used to have these little pieces of butter. They used to have that. Well, and Twinny, you worked
Those are
there.
the ones
Do you
that you'd
remember
roll
Twinny?
up. Twinny
Yeah.
Hearn.
I'm not sure what
Twinny
his
from
name,
out
he
near
worked there and he
Summerfield.
was gorgeous. And then there was
Yeah.
the Ashes and there was the Lawlers, who used to make fantastic baked Alaska.
Were they Lawlers that had the
Next
garage?
I don't know who they were. They were Peggy Lawler.
Yeah.
They had, and I'm not. Babs, Babby Knight.
I suppose the next shop then from
Pitch
your
ahead.
shop out would have been Bobby Atkins
Maybe
down
that's right.
down at the Strand
Yes.
Palace. He had a little shop there in front of the Strand Palace.
And then behind would have
Very
been,
limited amount of stuff there now. I'd say just maybe ice creams and sweets and maybe cigarettes.
but then behind that would have been Pitch Ahern with the shop. with
Yeah, that's where that became afterwards the Strand Post Office.
yes.
There, and then further out.
Mr. Rowan. Rowan's.
Then further around the corner, kind of where the bumpers were.
Yeah.
Didn't Owens
That's
have
Rowan's. Rowan?
No, Owens. They were. He used to take photographs.
Okay.
Remember
Ice cream?
Owens, the father? No, the father was was a pharmacist. Like they had a chemist shop
don't
in
know.
town.
I don't remember.
But
I remember the ice creams.
out there, they used to have. They had a big place, and he used to go out the Strand with his
Yeah,
camera.
I remember the person
taking
doing that.
shots of
I'm not
everyone.
I'm not remembering.
And then
the
you
name,
could actually,
recording.
he'd take all these little small shots of you.
Yeah.
Out he'd do it,
And for
then
2 and
you
6.
then you could go in. You could you could call into the place. Look at if you liked what you saw, you could order a photo.
Again, years ahead of your time, because it was a 1 hour photo and all these fancy
Yeah.
things came in about a quarter of a century later.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
where are you talking about the ones? I think that was out near Perks. But what was
That's what I'm talking about.
With
you see, we
Owens
went to
Perks?
the Strand Palace, then Perks.
That's what I'm to get. So how
Yeah.
important was
Just there near
Perks
the
going?
bumpers.
How important was Perks at that time?
It was so important for everybody.
Oh yeah. It
You
was
mean
the
for?
place.
I mean, it was the
It
big
was
draw.
the place for the summer. I mean,
Was
where
it?
else would you go in the summer?
And it was bubbling all the summer. It was bubbling, and the evening. I don't know what time they
And you'd
closed.
hate like when August came, wouldn't you?
I don't know about
The
that one.
August, well, you might have been relieved.
I don't
because
know,
you'd
it
be
wasn't a matter
but
of
I
that,
can,
it was
I can
just-
just remember, when it would come to August and the August bank holiday, and the nights would be starting to draw in,
Go back
and
to
they'd be
school, I
one.
suppose,
And
was
Phil
the big-
Flavin and myself used to work at Anna Lumbert, so we'd be working there till 9:30. Then we'd head out to Perks. Where else you wouldn't? There was no place in town for teenagers. The only place you'd meet boys was out at Perks.
We didn't go for that.
Oh,
sort
you
of thing.
didn't, Maria. And we'd head out there, and one particular night you'd go out and you'd suddenly look out and you'd notice the crowds were gone. And there was a sort of a darkness and a loneliness about the prom. And you'd say to yourself, this is the end of summer. I used to always remember that. I used to be dreading that night when that had come.
But ladies, to get back to the shop,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
want to
just-
know.
We're terrible for straying off the point, aren't we?
I want. No, it was all good. But I want to know is how come Donovan's shop brings back so much nostalgia to people in town of a certain era.
Yeah. Well, I'd say, what Eilish said about, her father being a unique person, and her mother also.
Yes.
And of course,
Correct.
her father, he had petrol pumps there as well. And I think he probably considered that his main kind of a thing, so when anybody came into the shop and wanted anything, he'd always call, Ma'am, shop. He'd call Leisha's mother to do the shop. He'd be minding the petrol pumps.
That's one way of looking.
It was great, and he was a unique person, and her mother was. And when you always have unique characters like that, it has a resonance with people. They like going into some place that's different.
It was like,
And even the shop itself, I mean, it was, to me now, like looking back on it as a child, all I could describe it as was like Aladdin's cave. You'd go in there and you'd never know what you'd find in there. There were all these treasures. Now you'd no money. I mean, you go in there, you mightn't be able to buy anything. And Mrs. Donovan might be looking at you, what were you doing in there? Were you looking around sort of, because you would, even when we had no money, now you might have a penny or two some days to spend, but more often than not you just go in there and have a look around at all the stuff, and everything like that. And then you see, it wasn't that special place that anybody going out the Strand had to pass it. And you didn't want to pass it, of course. you see.
So the footfall was ginormous.
And of course, and at that time also, you see, mothers with small children very often went down the 49 steps because it was a very sheltered place. And often when it would be breezy out the Strand, you could go down the 49 steps. There'd be a nice bit of sand down there, the rocks to sit on, and you'd be sheltered with that great big wall. So if you were down there then and you were well behaved or whatever, people tell us that, don't they? Because Catherine Mathis was telling us, like after a while her mother might say, here's a few pence there now, you can go up to the shop and get an ice cream or get a glass of orange.
So you're painting a very kind of colourful picture of the era. It wasn't kind of grey and drab. It seems to be very colourful. Of course, the weather was better, I gather.
Always.
It was always sunshine, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
I can never remember.
You might have had a shower once or twice, but it was really.
We got rid of them. We just said
rain,
it was wonderful.
It was sunny all the time, and
we went out the beach in the morning.
Yeah.
Of course, you might have been helping in the shop, but I can remember. You go out the beach, like say Bessie McCarthy and myself now, for instance. Now I lived with my grandmother when I was younger, but I was still up and down to the terrace all the time. But when I was a teenager, 13, 14, and when we were on our holidays, you'd get your togs and your towel, and you might bring some bread and butter and probably milk, how it stayed, because we didn't drink water, we didn't know that you should be drinking water, but milk. We'd never have lemonade or anything like that. And you'd go off out the beach in the morning, you mightn't come home till 4 or 5 o'clock. You'd be in and out of the water all day. You'd go in, you'd have a swim, you'd come out, you'd be lying out up in there. Do you remember that cement kind of a place that was there just below Perks?
And all for free.
You'd be lying out there. You'd be lying out there, you'd dry off, you'd bring a book with you. We used to always bring books with us. And then you'd be watching out for all the Cork fellas, like.
What year did the shop? When did the shop close? And it's not there anymore now.
I think we had Paddy was ill. It was it started to slow down. I mean, things.
That's Lisa's brother.
Paddy was up at the hospital, and then my dad died, and so it was left to my mother. And I think after that it was slowly easing out. I mean, she just found it too much. So and the council were quite keen to close it down. I think they were, it just for something came to a head, decided to close it, and so it was the end of an era.
And of course, Leisha was in England at this time.
The whole family were kind of away.
The whole family were away at that time, weren't they?
Yes.
Your older sister and your older
Peggy,
brother,
my sister
Peggy
Peggy.
and Billy.
I think you have a picture of Peggy building trying to build, helping to build the house, the shop.
So when you walk past there now, and you've memories of flooding back.
Oh, definitely. It was our area. It still is. I mean, it's just the main. I think that we talked about ghosts earlier. Yeah. Well, there are. It's there. It's still magic, and it's a beautiful place.
When the place was open, when the 49 Steps was open, Leisha and myself went down there, didn't we? When a nice fine day, and you were able to point out to me, look, this is where we used to sit, like when you have time off.
It was our area. It was
it was your stomping ground.
Yes, it was just a wonderful place to be, privileged to be able to have.
What a place to have your playground.
So all memories flood back when you see it there now. So what's the future for the area? I see there's some committee involved with saving Mulgoggins.
Well, I mean that seems to be very, very important, because having it's just, I think it's Youghal having Mulgoggins, those seats there, and this whole area is sort of just special to Youghal. I mean, this place with the kind of, even if they could, this used to be where the first lighthouse was built, and the idea that it could be
back in the 1500s,
part of Youghal,
you had a lighthouse here,
and continue into the park and all that. I mean, I understand there is this walk around Ireland, the west, the wild walk.
Atlantic way,
and I mean, it really, I started looking at the map, and I just don't see why it couldn't be continued. Maybe this is more gentle, so it could be not the wild one, but the beautiful walks of Ireland, because it's beautiful here, isn't it? And look at this.
It's an awful pity that the 49 Steps, I mean, every time I drive past there and see it closed, I don't know, I never hear anybody talking about, well and good, there's the local group interested in preserving Mulgoggins Corner and trying to get it fixed up and opened again, which I would love to see. But there doesn't seem to be any talk about the 49 Steps.
Yeah.
That place is blocked off, and I don't read anything like, is it health and safety? what are they worried about? You know, if you go down there, is the cliff going to fall down on top of you? They've done a lot of work
But they
shoring
have.
up
It's,
the place.
it's really looks
It's really
a good
shored
job.
up and
They look.
everything.
They look
But
like
I would
they.
love to see. Would you love to see the 49
Oh,
steps
I
opened
think it's
again?
going to. It looks like
I
they're
would love
going
to
to
see
work
it.
on it. I mean, that work,
You know?
that work they have done to shore up that road.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that is fantastic. It's a really. I mean, it's nearly a work of art in itself. And I should imagine that the county council, who take a pride in their work, are going to continue. And because Youghal is very important to the Cork County Council, I'm sure.
And, you know, just like you were talking yourself about the little bit that you did about the Barrack Road and how it brings back nostalgia to people. Well, you know, the time that I put the little ad in the Youghal News to ask people, you know, we were trying to get memories from people. I mean, about 10 people, straight away, I had replies from people
lovely,
that
isn't it?
all had these special memories about the shop. You know, going back to Kieran Dennehy and the Skoda car, and they thinking, you
Maybe
know,
Pop was a
that Pop
communist.
was a communist because he had his Russian car. And going back to Clifford Windsor's and Margaret's father, who got the reply when he was looking for the English paper, you can have yesterday's paper today, but you can't have today's paper till tomorrow. And he always remember that.
Yeah.
And you were talking there a while ago about the caddies when we were coming in. Well, one of the lads that was a caddie above at the golf club told me, I thought it was completely now unusual for that time, that Donovan's shop used to give them tick, the caddies, for their, you know, when they went over caddying there, they were there for the day, and they were able to get bread and butter and slices of ham put on the book during the week and pay for it at the end of the week. Now,
That's
I
nice.
thought that was very unusual for a man
I
or
think it
woman
was
to
my mother
trust,
most likely.
to trust caddies
Yeah. Oh no, but
to do that.
Yeah.
Not
Oh,
disparaging caddies or anything, but to trust any young people
I mean,
to actually do that.
I know it's
You
lovely,
know?
but it was. I think
Yeah.
there was a lot of good feeling around.
And the people that lived in the flat there.
And-
You know, they all have such great memories, like
Yeah.
Biddy O'Brien, now married to Michael Covenant.
There was apartments there as well
Yeah.
below that.
That's
I
right.
think,
They
yeah.
were kind of. It seems
Who
to.
was that?
It seems to be the pub had this sort of. He built the shop, the first piece of shop. He seemed to like building things, and then the next year or something, he built a little bit more on, and then he built. Really, when I see the space there, I don't know how big.
I know,
How
there was probably more land there at that
It must
stage.
have been, but I mean, there must have been another girder. But then he built a place behind where the camp used to be, and he built next door, the other side of the 49
over
steps,
the other, where
where
that
the
little place is.
petrol pumps, and
You
then
know
he,
where there's a little kind of
and he made it
seating place.
there was a large window and a flat behind, and down below there was another flat, and then they built a flat. The other side of the 49 steps, down the first 10 steps, and it seems to have been a kind of like a little hamlet of its own, because it seemed to be a sort of about 10 or 20 people might have been occupying that.
So we keep
thing.
meeting people that actually lived there. You know, that have great memories of actually living there. Like, for instance, Biddy O'Brien says, you know, that when they came there from England, and this was in the early 1960s, they had a shower in the flat. And they were looking out at the ocean when they got up in the morning. They thought they were in seventh heaven.
Oh, well, it was beautiful.
Well, ladies, we've the lovely ocean here behind you, the River Blackwater flowing through near
Isn't
the
it
the lighthouse.
fantastic?
So I hope you brought back a load of memories for people, anyway, a bit of nostalgia for people always talking about the shop and the lighthouse. So.
Well, and for me, thank you, because for me it makes it absolutely wonderful. The stories coming through, like the caddies, like the story of the lady who has a photograph of her father being part of the knocking down thing,
Mick Wells
and
knocking
all
the
of
place
these. Oh, it mattered, because for me it was a very important time of my life. You know.
I mean, that's what I think. If you were to sum it up, you know, and you'd say, you know, why are we talking about this and, you know, any other shop? But, you know, I would consider, you know, my picture of the place standing out there, you know, it was a unique shop in itself, but it was also in a unique place with two unique people running it.
Very well said.